welcome again to the Nightcap program with your host, none other than your girl, Charlene Clark Cura. It is great to be alive. It is great to be here with you, sharing with you today. It is here to be today, here to what am I saying? It's also nice to be confused, isn't it? It shows that we're human beings. Yes, it's great to be here again. That's what I wanted to say. It's great to be here again to share this moment with you, to share this platform with you. I want to say thank you so very much for tuning in, for joining in. Remember to share the link with your friends and families and let them come in and join as well. Now, before we start the show, let me do some housekeeping. Yes. Remember, you can participate by calling 1-877-367-0127, or you can also call by WhatsApp as well. Same number, 1-877-367-0127. We want to hear from you, or you may use use a chat group. Now, every Sunday after finishing the show, I am bombarded with text messages, and I am not able during the show from time to time to read and to share. So I'd prefer if you call in or you share in the chat room here. It makes it much easier for us to share on the platform. Sit back, relax. I hope you have had a good Sunday dinner, and let us start now. Today, I would want to take this opportunity. It's my pleasure to welcome on the platform today Erica Lima. Now, Erica is from Brazil and is currently living in Portugal. She works as a tech recruiter and is starting a business of virtual assistant services, taking advantage of her 12 years of experience working in multinationals with the highest level of professionals. Her experience with depression and other mental battles started after sexual abuse at the tender age of 8 and going through her adolescence fighting depression, suicidal attempts 5 times, among other issues. Today, her goal is to advocate for these people who have gone through similar experiences. She is also of the view that depression is still not taken seriously as it should, as well as suicidal attempts. After going through years of therapy and thousands of heavy medicines, today she could learn how not to let this have control over her anymore. Her passion is to give a voice and be the voice of so many people who still didn't find the courage to speak about their struggles. She wants to show them it's totally okay to fight mental illness and to still live a happy life. What a powerful introduction. It gives me great pleasure to speak with you today, Erica Lima. Now, I hope I have not butchered your name. I'm good for doing that. I hope I didn't butcher your name. But welcome to Nightcap Show.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, Charlene. And let me tell you, it's the first time ever in my life that I come on a public show to talk about these things. And I'm very, very happy, and I feel very blessed because I believe that God, for some great reason, brought us together.
Right.
That happened last week, and I believe that it's divine providence because we are both trying to do some good, to leave some good things in this world. So I'm very, very happy and very grateful for you to have me in your show today. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. And I myself am grateful for you choosing to use this platform to share your story for the first time. And I'm sure that my viewers and my guests who are here are also grateful to listen to your story, to understand that, listen, this is real. But if we come together, we can make it better for persons who have gone through and are going
Yeah,
through similar situations. Thank you, Erica.
yeah.
Erica, tell me a little bit about yourself growing up. Who was Erica like? I see you say you were from Brazil, but now you're living in Portugal. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, yeah, I am Brazilian, but I have a heart and blood. I have an European heart
Hmm.
and blood. And so now after 39 years, I decided to definitely move to Europe. And then I came to Portugal. I've been here for almost 5 months. I'm
Hmm.
really enjoying this place. You know, it's a beautiful country, amazing place to live. And because I'm in a moment of my life that I've always been a woman of taking challenges and making things happen.
Right, right.
And since I decided to advocate for such a great cause, I decided that I really had to move to come out of my normal world. You
Hmm.
know, this is one
Hmm.
of the reasons why I left Brazil.
Right.
So I came here, and actually, I've been so blessed because I keep meeting people that come to me for help
For
because
help.
they don't know what to do. They don't know how to deal with mental illness. They are
Hmm.
afraid because they are judged. They're
Hmm.
not listened. They're not understood.
Hmm.
And so I believe that it's one of my missions. This is one of my greatest missions. And that's what Erica Lima is doing today, starting tonight on your show.
Wow, thank
I'm
you.
officially I'm officially declaring myself an advocate for my dear brethren, for my dear brothers and sisters who are suffering and struggling with mental illness, with especially suicidal attempts, and especially for those who suffered sexual abuse,
Sexual abuse,
because
yes.
this is something that unfortunately have been present in my whole life since when I was 8 years old. But
Tell us a little
today,
bit. Tell us a little bit about that when you, yes. But today,
today I'm really grateful
hmm,
for everything that
hmm,
happened to me
yes,
because that allowed me to become the woman I am today,
hmm,
much
hmm,
stronger. Today, I don't see myself as a victim, not anymore. I see myself as a fighter. And that's what I want to help people to make them realize they can still have a life, a happy life. It
hmm,
doesn't mean the struggles are not going to be there. The
right,
pain, the memories are not going to be there. I'm not saying that. But as long as you learn how to cope, as long as you learn how to have control over these powerful emotions and feelings. And it takes a lifelong, I can tell you that, because I still keep learning, but today if I'm able to live my life very independently and happy thanks to my years and years of therapy.
hmm.
So I'm very grateful for that too.
Oh, it's a lot to be grateful. Tell me, and I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy you're smiling.
Thank you.
Let's
I'm
let's
happy to.
move on to memory lane a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Erica childhood and how what's it's hard, but the sexual abuse, how it started, and tell us a little bit, as much as you can, comfortably can, about that journey, the young Erica, the child Erica, that, that time facing those issues. Tell us a little bit about what happened, as much as you can.
Well, even though it's hard to talk about, I am grateful that I'm able to do that because I'm free. Today I'm free, so I can talk about these things. Actually, I came from a very Catholic family, and I remember very much beautiful moments from my childhood as well. I have
Mhm.
remembrances of when I was even 3 years old.
Mhm.
I have memories from the time I was 3 years old. And one of the things that I remember the most is how much my progenitor was loving and caring towards me. My
Right.
mom used to tell me that I was always his favorite because I was the first girl and that was his dream and everything. And I remember until the moment everything was destroyed, I had adoration for
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
He was my hero, he was my protector, as every father is supposed to be.
Right.
And of course, when you were a child, you never expect your parents to do some evil to you, to do anything bad with you. You do not expect that. You don't even have this kind of knowledge.
Right.
And but I remembered very, very clear that day. And I remember that my mom, she had taken my brother, my oldest brother, and my youngest sister to the doctor. And I stayed alone with him, which was, of course, absolutely normal.
Right.
We used to play a lot, we used to do a lot of things together. And until came a certain moment where he took me, he put me on his lap. I don't know, today I know that he was a little bit drunk on that day
Mhm.
because he started having problems, with alcohol, but not problems, but like he started having, some alcohol, not every day, but every week.
Mhm.
And after that, he increased this, and that was became much worse. But on that moment, I remember that he because I could feel, I could smell the alcohol. I remember
Wow.
that. And I remember that I told him, I asked him, "Oh, Daddy, have you been drinking again? Mom is going to be very upset with you." I even told him that. But anyway, he was my hero. He was my beloved daddy. But on the moment that he put me on his lap and he started holding me so strong, and I could not understand anything. I couldn't understand what he was actually doing. I remember looking at his eyes and was like I could not recognize who he was anymore.
Wow. It's like he wasn't there.
Yeah, like he wasn't there. And but I started asking him, "Dad, what are you doing? Why don't you let me go? You are hurting me." And he just kept doing that, you know. And until the moment that I started feeling so much pain.
Wow.
But I couldn't understand. I couldn't figure out what was really going on. And one thing that happened, and I could discover and work on that after 25 years during therapy. But because one thing that is very clear to me, after that happened, I mean, during the action, I could not cry, I could not scream. I don't know, I didn't have a reaction. And I could not understand that for so many years. I could not understand why I couldn't have any reaction, why I didn't try to protect myself, to defend myself from him. And then I remember he let me go, but he was like, he himself was not believing
What he did,
on
what he
what
just
had
did.
just happened. Yeah, he could not believe. I remember he was looking at me and I was looking at him and I was feeling so much pain. And then I left and went to the bathroom and I was bleeding. And that for me was something, oh my goodness, what is going on? Why did he hurt me? What have I done? What am I being punished for? And then he said one thing that every pedophile will tell a victim. If you tell something, nobody's going to believe you. If you say something, nobody's going to believe you. If you tell your mom, she's going to fight with you. She's not going to believe you. And that for me was so strong because you see, we were seen by others as a Christian family model. We were a
Mm.
model to others. We
Right.
were in church every Sunday working, we were involved in the church's activities. So for people, we were a perfect model of family, of a Catholic family. Who was going to believe me? Nobody. Nobody was going to believe me.
So you didn't say, you didn't tell.
No, no, I
Did it,
didn't. I
did it,
thought about telling my brother, but I knew that if I had done that, my brother would probably have killed him.
wow.
I didn't want to destroy my family. And I mean, for me, what stayed in my mind was that I had nobody to protect me, to defend me. I had to do by myself.
By yourself.
From that moment on, I had to protect myself because nobody could do that. My mom was not there. And for me, this was also very difficult to treat during therapy because for me it was like my mom, the one who was supposed to protect me, she was not
Wasn't.
there when I most needed her. And that was not her fault. Of course not. My poor mom.
Right, right.
But as every victim of sexual abuse, we feel and we believe that we are responsible. Somehow
For it.
we are responsible. Somehow we did something that led that person to do that with us.
Yes. Did so you didn't tell anyone? Was it the only time it happened, or did it happen again and again and again?
With him was only once. With him, but it happened
So with your dad, it
again.
happened once.
Yeah, it happened once. But I believe that he didn't try again because my behavior changed completely.
Towards him.
I started being a troubled child.
Oh wow.
My mom could not understand why I was so savage, why I was so disrespectful. At school, I was always a very picky person. At
Mm-hmm.
school, I would not relate myself to everybody. I would
Mm-hmm.
not allow everybody to come close to me, especially men, especially the boys. I would
Mm-hmm.
hurt, I would beat them. For me, that was a pleasure because for me, I was protecting myself. You see, everybody, in my mind, everybody could harm me. Anyone could harm me, so I had to protect myself. And then I started building barriers, building walls. And no, I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't because I knew nobody was going to believe me. Nobody was going to believe me.
So you said that it happened with your dad once, but it happened again with someone else. Was it someone from the
Yeah,
family or
yeah.
friend?
No, not for, yeah. One from the family, one the ex-husband of a cousin of mine. They
And
they divorced. They're divorced, and but this was when I was 16. When I
oh,
was 11, happened again with a neighbor. He tried, like he started touching me, but I could somehow, get rid of him.
right.
Yeah, but with this cousin, yeah, he did was not we he didn't force me to have sex, but he kissed me, he forced
Mm-hmm.
me. I mean, and that my life became such a hell. I could feel that I was just living in a hell. I couldn't see any good in anything in anywhere. I was going to church because my mom was taking me. So I was doing just to please her because I lost, I didn't have the desire to do anything, to do good at school, nothing. And nobody could understand my behavior because he would protect himself. He would put himself as a good father who was trying to educate his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
was always the bad one. I was always the black sheep.
Mm-hmm. 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 How was your
Here,
relationship with him thereafter, though? You said that you became somewhat rebellious. Let's call it that. You were
yeah,
labeled now as a
very
bad
bad.
kid because this is your way of dealing with what you went through with someone who is supposed to protect you, your father, right?
Yeah.
How was
Yeah.
your relationship with him now? Were you still seeing him as a dad? Were you communicating with him? Would you listen to him? What was the relationship like?
I remember until I was 12 years old, I mean, 13 years old, that was when the depression started to be very, very, very severe.
Mm-hmm.
But until 12 and a half, I would talk, but because my mom would force me, you know, not because I wanted, but because my mom would ask me, would kind of force me, and to please her,
You would talk.
I would, yeah, yeah. But for me, he was already dead,
Mm-hmm.
dead, completely, completely dead.
Mm-hmm.
But when I turned 13 years old and then finished, I stopped talking to him. For me, he was just like a ghost. We're just
Mm-hmm.
living under the same roof, but for me, he didn't exist at all.
It didn't exist. How
He
did
was
it,
nothing.
did this bother him? Did
Oh,
it bother
yeah,
him?
yes, very much, very much. But as every pedophile and psychopath, he knew how to put himself in the place of
Of the
the poor
victim?
victim so that people would feel pity for him. People would
Mm-hmm.
feel bad for him. People would not ask, why does she behave that way? Why is she
Mm-hmm.
doing this kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just speechless.
I'm sorry. I can talk about it, but it's still hard. But I want to
I
do it because
I'm
it is a healing process.
yeah, I'm just speechless. When did the depression that led to suicidal attempts started?
When I was 13, I started suffering of depression. I was actually diagnosed with depression. But because my mom also had depression, she was told that it was a kind of hereditary
Mm-hmm,
disease
mm-hmm,
because she
mm-hmm.
had, so I was having. So we would just treat and everything, look for a psychiatrist to start taking medicine. And so we started that process. But things started going worse because you see, you go to a therapist, but if you don't tell the problem, if you don't tell
Tell
him,
the
that's
truth.
what I never did for years.
Yeah.
I had numerous therapists and I could never, ever, I couldn't, not because I didn't want, but because I could never, ever tell them I was sexually abused by my father. So the therapy for years, they actually didn't work, not as not as it would if I had told them. And I don't blame them. It was not their fault, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't say, you know. And I I had a very troubled adolescence, but I didn't go for prostitution, neither to take drugs or anything like that. I didn't do that. I spent actually at least 10 years of my life planning how to kill him.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a notebook and I used to write everything that I want to do with him.
Wow.
I wanted him to pay for everything. I wanted him to suffer. I wanted to make his life a living hell. I wanted him to pay, but I wanted to make justice with my own hands. And I planned that. I
Mm.
wrote almost a full notebook. I'm sorry, almost a whole notebook. I wrote down everything that I was going to do. I planned step by step. And I was convinced that that was the only way of fixing everything. I didn't have anybody to tell me I was not responsible for his actions. And I could only blame myself. I spent years of my life blaming myself and asking, what have I done? Why did I allow him to do that? Why did I let him to do that? And I think that guilty was one of the things that most that helped me to hate him. I hated him with my whole heart. I hated him. That was the only thing I could feel for him was hatred,
Hatred.
nothing. I used to write a lot. That was one way, not only write how to kill him, but I started writing poems. I started writing, you know, just a way to express myself since I couldn't talk to anybody. At least I could write. And then when I was 14, my mom took me to a psychiatrist. I was with a therapist that was from the school, and he said that I needed I needed a psychiatrist because I needed to be put on medicines because the depression was getting too severe. I was having a lot of troubles at school. I had panic attacks. I mean, I was not living anymore. I was not living. And when I started taking medicines, then, oh my goodness. Because at that time, some medicines that I was taking today is forbidden. But
Wow.
at that time, it was very common.
Mm-hmm.
And the first psychiatrist that I went to see, he put me under three different types of medicines. And when I started taking those medicines, the collateral effects were horrible. I started hallucinating. I could not, I could look at anywhere and see things, my
Wow.
mind, I thought I was going crazy. I
Crazy.
started to believe that I was going crazy, absolutely crazy.
And that was a side effect of the medicine that you were
Side
prescribed.
effects of the medicines. Yeah, yeah, side effects of the medicines. And then I told
The
my mom
medicine you were taking gave
if I'm
you
not wrong, after 1 week, I told my mom, I'm not going to take those medicines anymore. So I remember that she called the doctor and he explained that it was normal because my body was still getting used. So I couldn't stop taking, I had to continue.
hold on, Erica, at this time, is your mother aware that all this that you're going through it's is because of your father's action
No,
when you ate? So even at this point, no one still knew what happened.
no, my family doesn't know.
Did you ever
Maybe
tell the
today,
police what's happening?
maybe today, my mom, I don't know, maybe deep in her heart today, she knows.
She knows,
I
but
don't know.
you've
That's
never
just a
said
guess.
it to her.
No, never, 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 ever. And I do not intend to do that because I think it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be useless what she can do. I don't want my mom to feel responsible for something that she was not. I had to work so hard to forgive my mom, even though she was not responsible. And I had to work so hard that on me, I don't want to put this pressure on her today. Do you understand me? I mean, they are divorced
You
almost
thought
20
back then
years.
you thought that she should have been there, but it's not her fault, but it's just your way to deal
Yeah,
with the
because
situation. Did she,
because you see, since when
did she,
I was a child, I had no idea on how to deal with that. I mean, my mind was a mess. My head was a mess. And so I naturally started developing a kind of revenge towards my mother,
Mhm.
and then I started, even unconsciousness, blaming her for not being there.
Did she ever ask you in any way whatsoever? Did she ever even mention? Never.
No, no,
Mhm.
no. I don't know if I don't know if she wanted. I don't know if she was afraid. I don't know. I don't know, but she never asked me. I remember once, the only time she asked me was not if something had happened. She asked me, "Why do you hate your father?" That was the only question she made, but she never asked, "Have he ever done something with you?"
Right. She asked why you hated him. How long did were they together for a very long time after
Oh,
that?
for 27 years, if I'm not wrong.
After that? And you held all that inside for all those years. Wow.
Yeah,
Did
that was I
You
mean,
didn't deserve that, Erica, but
I,
I
I,
can
I couldn't.
understand.
I simply, I couldn't tell anybody. I mean, I simply couldn't. And I could not understand. I could not do anything. The only thing that I could do for was to somehow protect myself. And that
Tell
brought
me,
me a lot of, yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
no, that made me have, of course, a lot of trouble with male relationship because, when I was a teenager, I started to approach always older guys, always older, always,
Mm-hmm.
because I I had that necessity of being at control, and so I had to feel that I could control them. That was a kind of power for me. That would make me feel safer. As long as I'm at control, I'm safer. But but also deep inside, I knew that I was driving myself to an abysm that I don't know if I would one day be able to get out because my head my I was so messy. I was so messy, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean just trying to live. I've changed therapies for I don't know how many times. My goodness. And taking medicines. After that psychiatrist, my mom took me to another psychiatrist. And instead of taking away the medicines that I was having, he added more medicines. So when I was 15 years old, 15, the magical age, I remember planning my party, a party that I never had actually, but I was trying to be a normal adolescent.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 15, I was just a kind of zombie. I was not a human being anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would sleep. I would only get up to go to school and then come back. At home, I just wanted to be in my room sleeping. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to sleep and sleep and sleep, never more wake up. I never wanted to wake up. And since I was 15, when I was 11, my mom started teaching me, to take buses and go to pay some bills and everything. So I started having that kind of freedom. And so that was for me a way of escaping also. So when I knew I was going to be alone with him, I would escape. I would go to somewhere. I would not stay at home alone with him. And even with everybody at home, I would never stay closer to him. Never. If he was in the living room, I would move to another place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But never staying together in the same room. No, never. And of course, there was so many moments that my mom fought with me, called my attention. You know, even other people that she shared the situation that she couldn't handle me. Other people came to talk to me and saying that I could not be that much. I could not be that bad daughter after everything he did for me because he loved me very
Right.
much. And
Of the
you
picture
see all
perfect.
this kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And
so
that
so
was
you're
so
presenting something
hard
to the
for me.
public that does not exist in the home.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
so this Mhm.
at the same time, I would feel, well, they know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
know nothing. So
So they can talk. Yeah. And so this led to your suicidal attempts 5
Yeah,
times.
when I was 15 years
Five
old,
times. 5 times.
5 times, 5 times. And you see, the first time that I attempted, I took, because you see, when we attempt suicide, we don't want to die.
No.
We want to end our pain. That's all
Right.
we want to do. And so we reach such a terrible moment of despair that it seems there is no other option for us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I remembered I was alone at home and I took 32 pills, different types, but total 32 pills. I mixed with my pills with some of my mother's medication too. I had no idea anymore what I was taking, but there was 32. I counted. I remember that I counted because I wanted to make sure I was having enough to
Wow.
sleep and never more to wake up. And so I took all those medicines, and the ones I was taking was already absolutely strong. My mom used to administer that for me, but I knew where she was keeping. So, and of course, she never thought I could do such a thing. So, and I remember I took those medicines, and I went, I went to bed, and I stayed in my bed, and I just prayed that I would never wake up again, because that was going to finally end. And then I remember that, I mean, I just started seeing everything getting dark. And then I woke up. When I woke up, I was in the hospital with my mom crying at my side and some doctors trying to do something. And then I just heard the doctor say, okay, we brought her back.
Wow.
And I know that on that moment, I was supposed to be grateful, but I felt so miserable because I could not even kill myself.
Mhm.
That was the sense that I had, that I was so miserable, that I was so even incapable of ending my life. So that never happened. That never helped. Actually brought me more trouble. And my mom crying at my side and just asking me why, and I could not tell her. I remember that I asked her to leave, to go away. I remember fighting with the doctors. Why did you do that? Why didn't you let me go? Why? It's my right. Why didn't you let me go? And then I remember that one of the doctors, he came to me and said, I know that you think that this is the only option you have in life, but it's an illusion. It's not your only option. After 2 days, I left the hospital, already committed to do again. I left the hospital with that commitment. I'm going to do again, but I need to increase the number of medicines so that they
What?
won't be able to bring me back.
You left the
That was my,
hospital with that frame of mind that
I left
this
the hospital
I am going to
committed
do
to do
it.
again, committed to do again. Yeah, yeah. I was absolutely convinced that was the only way to end my pain because I could not cope with that anymore. I could not carry that burden anymore. Do you know what it is? You go to shower and you scrub yourself, keep washing, feeling dirty. I did that for years, years and years. You feel dirty. You feel, yes, I left the hospital committed to do again.
Oh,
And a month later, I did. But
Erica.
the second time, I wanted to use a knife, but I didn't want to feel that pain of cutting myself. I didn't want to feel pain. I wanted to end my pain. So I increased the numbers of medicine. And when my mother saw me, I was almost dead again at home. And then the same thing, called the ambulance and rushing to the hospital. Same process. Okay, I survived and feeling even more miserable. I failed again. I failed again. My mother had no idea of what to do anymore. If she was lost after that second attempt, her mom, I mean, nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what was happening with Erica. What is going
And
on? Why is she doing this? What is someone outside doing something to her? At school, they thought I was taking drugs. I had to make blood tests to prove I was not taking drugs because my life was, I would feel I was being, you know, because of the medicines that I was taking, they were so strong that I would feel followed. I would feel someone was following me, you know.
mhm, mhm,
I was
mhm.
feeling like
Nation.
ghosted. That was horrible,
Mhm.
horrible thing. I could see
Mhm.
shadows, but I knew all that was side effects of the medicines.
Right. Mhm.
But at
And
school,
even
imagine.
and even at this time, you still did not choose to. You still chose not to tell anyone, but just to go through your pain.
Yeah, for me, I was the only one that could fix that. Since I was responsible in my mind, since I was guilty, I had to fix that. So therapies were not working. I changed therapies several times. Nobody knew what to do to help me anymore. And a lot of people getting involved, call this priest, call that person, and let us do, let us pray, let us do something. But I was convinced. I was
That this
convinced I'm going to end my life. That's it. You can try. You can do whatever you want to do. Try to help me. But I'm convinced the only
okay.
way is killing myself. That's the only thing that I can do, and I will do. That
All
was
right.
my mind.
It's viewers, listeners. I know it's just I'm getting a lot. You'd see me going to my phone and on the screen because my phone is really blowing up here, and I'm getting a lot of persons saying it's sad, you didn't deserve this, you didn't, you didn't, you should not have experienced something like this, and it's not your fault, and it's just a sad situation over. um and you're beautiful, and it's just that there wasn't anyone there who could see what you're going through and read the signs, the telltale signs, because even though it still hurts. And my viewers, my listeners, even myself, it's hard to listen to a story like this and smile and have a pure voice. My voice is cracking up. You know, it's really sad. I'm going to take a break at this time. Viewers, go nowhere. When I return, I will have with me someone who will join us to speak, on the platform with us, David Taylor. Please don't go anywhere. We take a break.
Sure. Thank you.
This week on the Nightcap program, we talk about sexual abuse and suicide. My guest for this week is Erica Lima, a victim of sexual abuse from the age of 8 years old, which led her to suicidal attempts, not once, not twice, but 5 times. God had a better plan for her. Come and listen to Erica's story of how she directed her path from the abyss of darkness into the rays of light. That's the Nightcap program this week, August 21 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You simply cannot afford to miss this one. This one will be epic. This week's episode of the Nightcap Show is brought to you by LD's Jamaican Art, the finest Jamaican art around town. You can find them at shop number 48, Ocean Village Shopping Center, Ocho St. Anne, or you can call them at 876-974-2764 or 876-895-1288. That's LD's Jamaican Art, the finest art around town. Go check them out. They have the best art for you. Don't miss the Nightcap program this week. It will be epic. Thank you for sticking and staying, listeners and viewers. Let me welcome another guest, David Taylor. David, are you there? Are you hearing me? All right, while we await David, let me just continue with Erica. Um, at what point we're waiting? David is trying to enter. I guess he's not quite here just yet. At what point, Erica? You mentioned that based on what you've experienced, you would have hated your dad, planned to kill him. You would have had
Mhm.
challenges with having relationships with men. You sought
Yeah.
relationships with older men.
Mhm.
You tried suicide 5 times, and each time you tried and failed, you decided that you're going to come back better. Um, at what point did you begin to step out of that darkness? At what
Mm.
point did you begin to, little by little, you have not yet fully let go? I know,
Yeah.
I see it, I feel it. You've not yet fully let go, but you've reached a place where you can talk about it. But at what point did you begin to start your healing process? what point did that start for you, and how did it started? When did you say, you know what? I am not going to try a sixth time. I'm going to pick the pieces up. Erica has a
Mhm,
purpose on this land. This is not Erica's fault. What I've been through is not my fault. I am
mhm,
not going to be a prisoner no more. When did you started doing that?
mhm. Well, actually, I can say that the healing process really started at the age of 24 when for the first time in my life, I told a very dear friend and sister of mine. I told her what had happened to me when I was 8 years old, and I got all the love and support and understanding that I needed that I've never had during my life. I was not judged for the mistakes that I chose to do because uh, you know, of hatred, and I just wanted to hurt. Since I was hurt, I wanted to hurt people as well. And I remember that when I told her, I started finally feeling some peace.
So it was when you shared this information, you began to feel
Yeah,
within peace.
yeah,
So
yeah,
all this time, you recognize what was happening, Erica. All this time, you were trying various avenues of releasing this pain, but you were never talking about it. And the
yeah,
moment you spoke about it, you began to feel that peace that you were yearning for.
yeah, yeah. That was the moment I realized, wait a moment, I can have power over this. But I knew I still had a long way to go out because I needed to learn how to deal with all those emotions. But the healing process started. But even though after that, I still attempted suicide for 3 times
Hmm.
because you see, when you were battling depression. In my case, what led me to suicide was depression.
Hmm.
That was one of the reasons because there is a it's very wrong. There is a great mistake that people think that every suicidal suffered of depression, and it's a lie. It doesn't happen that way.
Hmm.
So many people suffer with depression, but they are not suicidal.
They're not suicidal.
So,
Okay.
but in my case, was also because of depression.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but I remember also when I told this friend of mine, she said that she was going to help me with professional help. She
Hmm.
was going to take me to a good psychologist and a good psychiatrist. And in fact, I was living in the United States by this age. I was living in California, and then I
Hmm.
went to Connecticut in New York to
Hmm.
start a treatment. And I started with a therapist. She was wonderful. She was really great. And then I started also with a psychiatrist. And I've been through so many psychiatrists, but like that one, I'm sure never more in my life I'm going to find a psychiatrist like he was the only therapist that I could I felt secure, I felt safe
Comfortable
enough
talking with.
to
Yes.
detail everything. I could tell him with detail everything that
Hmm.
happened, how that happened. I don't know
Right.
how he got that, but I mean,
You know what happened, Erica, was the moment you spoke about it, but that's why that happened. Because when you had the therapists before, you've never spoken about it, but this time you had already
yeah,
told someone, and that is what made the difference. I'm going to call
absolutely.
David. I'm going to call David Taylor on, put him on call because for some unknown reason he's unable to log in. So I'm just going to call him and hope that we can get him because
Okay.
to hear his perspective. Let us see if we can get David on call. But in essence though, I am glad that you found, peace within by David Taylor. Welcome to Design to Inspire. You're on here air, the Nightcap program. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
All right, can you hear me clearly? Hello, David, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Charlene.
Brilliant. Erica, are you hearing David?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Brilliant. So David is a Christian. He did his first degree at University of West Indies in Jamaica with a social work degree. He is now pending his master's degree in counseling and social work, but his passion is really about helping people. He's passionate about helping people. As a matter of fact, he worked with the Ministry of Justice in Jamaica with the victim support system. So he has that understanding and that ability to deal with situation as this. And so
Hmm.
I welcome David to the conversation. David, you would have heard Erica's story. Welcome to Nightcap program. You would have heard Erica's story, and I just want you to chime in with your perspective.
Okay, well, first of all, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Charlene, thank you so much for having me.
It's a
It's a
pleasure.
privilege. And Erica, wow, I wish I could meet you in person. I love when I'm talking to persons, I'm able to see them. I hope you're hearing me. Can you hear me?
Yes, she can. She's hearing you loud and
Okay,
clear.
great.
Yeah, I can hear
So,
him.
Erica, very happy to meet you. Listening to you, I think you are, and seeing you, I think you are a living, walking miracle.
Mhm.
Because when you even mention the 32 pills, I mean, what are the odds that you'd have survived? And here you are. And I want to take the time to say thank you from a main perspective because it must have been a tough journey, and you said it in terms of trusting men. And I would like to take the time to empathize
Mhm.
and also to apologize on behalf of those men, good fathers, good men who tried to live a life of integrity, who tried to stand up to their role as fathers and men and protectors, who I'm sure if other men were here, I'm supposing that there may be men online, I'm not in the chat room, but I'm sure they would have felt some level of disappointment or shame or even anger for what was done to you because the role of a father is to protect. So I just really want to, apologize on behalf of, good men, good fathers who would have done differently had they had the chance, and to commend you on, just the tenacity that you have, the strength that you have. I've listened to where you're at now, and your objective is to help people, boys and girls, men and women, overcome the trauma that they face, especially as it relates to suicide. I really think your story is nothing short of a miracle, and the fact that God has indeed a plan for your life. I think you said it earlier that I'm pretty sure you said that you would not have changed the circumstances. I wonder to myself, while I'd have never wanted this to happen, what would life have been like if with this passion for helping others
Be there.
being the same, So Charlene, to preface, what Erica has said, a lot of things came to my mind. I don't want to come across as lecturing, but I did come with an approach to how I do it.
Right.
So I have in mind, first of all, addressing the question as to why do people abuse, and then I secondly want to go into what happens when someone is abused, and then finally, to put forward some recommendations. And to be honest, I believe that Erica has come a long way and is making great progress. Her country's motto is, I hope I pronounce it right, Erica, order y progreso, right? Order and progress. And I really believe that Erica is making progress. So that motto really fits you. And I think very soon, and little by little, there'll be more order coming into your space and in your life. So let me address the issue of why do people abuse. We don't often ask that question, and I think it's worth hearing out because sometimes when we are victims or we are abused or we have been a victim of something or the other, we tend to feel that it's just us alone and that it was intended to me. And I think Erica said earlier.
She did say it. She said she felt it was her fault.
Pardon?
She did say it. She did say she felt it was her fault. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And why did this happen to me? Did I do something wrong? Something must be wrong with me. Why did it happen to me? So all of a sudden it becomes a personalized problem. When in truth and in fact, this is something that has been happening throughout the ages. The Bible speaks about various cases. We have, Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, who was raped. We have Tamar, the daughter of David, who was also raped by her brother Amnon. And there are countless other situations. Why do people abuse? Why would a father
abuse his daughter?
Love and protect his child, his flesh and blood, do something like this. And I know perhaps this is not the mainstream counseling response, but because of my biblical background, it behoves me to go from a spiritual perspective as well. And what I would say is that it's simple, that sin degenerates the mind, sin corrupts the mind, it perverts the mind. Sin is selfish. Sin is pride-filled. Sin thinks about myself and how I can please myself. It becomes so sinister. It becomes so vile that when someone does not take a hold of themselves, that they lose almost all insensitivity toward what is moral and what is right. So I remember when Erica was talking, and it was almost as though I was there with Erica watching when she said her father just transformed.
Right.
Like a totally different person.
He wasn't there. She said she could not recognize him.
She could not recognize him. He was like a completely different person. And I would have imagined that maybe there was even a shifting of his face. I don't know, but there's a transformation in his face and his whole demeanor would have changed. And sin does motivating. And like I said, and when the more you engage in it, it degenerates to the point where you lose sensitivity to morality,
and the people and the person's feelings. But let me ask you,
Exactly.
because we are running out of time now, but let me ask you, you've heard her
Sure.
story. No, she's an advocate for persons who are silent like she was once. What you think about that? The pain that she has gone through. No, she's an advocate for mental wellness, among other things that she's doing. She's active on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, that's how I met her, and she writes well, and that's how I met her. What do you think about her now moving into the space of helping, having gone through this situation?
And I think it's awesome. I think it's very selfless of her. She could have chosen to wallow in feeling sorry for herself, feeling that, life is hopeless, she will not recover, but instead she has chosen to channel that pain, that suffering, that rejection, that anger, and channel it into something positive.
Right.
There are some things that we need to be careful of. So in counseling, there is what we call sublimation. And I think this is what Erica is doing, sublimating, which is a positive way of changing, negative energy into a positive
energy.
So she has consciously decided to say, hey, look, with this experience, I'm determined not to waste it. I have all intentions to use it to help other persons who may be struggling or who would have gone through what I'm going through. I'm happy that it's not substitution, which is what some people do, where people default to drinking alcohol, taking drugs,
right. Instead of channeling what they've been through by being that voice, so they turn to substance abuse.
Right. But Erica has done a good thing. So she has chosen to channel her energy in a right direction by shifting the attention off self and investing in others, and that's rewarding. In fact, there is a difference between telling me that you understand and you have never been there,
than telling me that you understand having gone through it.
Precisely. So literally, Erica has the experience. If Erica were to come across someone and, let us say that, the counselor's jargon, I can only imagine.
Right.
Let us say that the client was to say, really, can you imagine? Have you ever been there?
Right.
Erica would have a legitimate explanation because she literally
She's been there.
And even if she had said no, the client could understand that there's a degree that not everybody would go to what they would have gone through, but there's something about a person or even a professional helper who can say, I have been there. So I'm not guessing, I'm not theorizing, I'm coming from a place where you were and I've risen above. And of course, that takes courage and a decision on the part of the council, because one also has to be careful how they disclose
the information.
On the other hand, while it's a great thing to channel this negative experience and use to help others, it can be, one has to be careful in the sense that, well, the process has started where she has gotten help. I think I've heard her say that she quenched her silence by speaking to about her friend.
Right. And then after that, she saw a psychologist or psychiatrist who was able to help her.
Right. Right. And I'm happy for that, because there are many persons who, with all good intentions, wanting to help, wanting to make a difference in the world, wanting to be a hero, wanting to not make what happened to them happen to another person. But guess what? Unfortunately, there are some issues in the background. So they themselves sometimes, and sometimes these persons are brilliant. They know all the counseling theories and techniques that exist, but they have never dealt with the boogeymen, so to speak, or the long-standing issues that
Exactly.
have affected them.
So they don't know, they don't have the know-how.
Right.
Right.
No, go again.
So they don't. So they don't have the know-how to treat with this situation in order to bring forth help for the individual who is submerged in this kind of reality.
Well, on the contrary, sometimes they know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that at some point in time, there can be cases where, let us say, for example, if Erica was not at, and I meant to ask Erica to scale how far she feels she has overcome this hurt, you know, and I'm saying from one thing, I hope I can answer that after. But what I'm saying is this, that even in helping, if the helper has not sufficiently dealt with the matter, you know, there are issues like transference that can come up, or what we call counter-transference, where, let us say, for example, a client comes in. Suppose a client that looks like Erica that came in. So Erica is counseling, and here comes a client that has a tendency of her father, has a voice.
Yes, as a smell.
And because Erica did not resolve that,
it brings her right back to the age of 8.
That would have been an issue because
right.
the client would not be sufficiently adequately helped. Why? Because Erica, or a person who did not deal with that, would have kind of coming with biases, treated the client as the same as the offender that you're dealing with. So if the point is that the blind side to being a helper is not getting help for yourself. Very often, helpers typically, because it's a gift, they help people. There's a pleasure and a satisfaction that they get in reaching out.
All right.
But if they have not dealt sufficiently in helping themselves, now that's when it can become an issue where, with all good intentions in helping the other person, you didn't resolve your issues, and so you bring a lot of things
into the helping relationship
and even your personal life.
Right. David, we have to say bye. Thank you so very much for chiming in. I'm so sorry that you were not able to connect. Viewers, listeners, you'll be listening to David Taylor. You know, he has the experience in this arena. Thank you so very much, David, and we can continue behind scene the discussion, and I'm sure I will, you know, invite you to another show again. But thank you so very much, David, for chiming in.
Charlene, thank you so much for having me. Erica, just amazing where you're at. I'm excited to hear about the other prospects for your life. I admire your tenacity, and I just trust that all the dreams and aspirations will be fulfilled. And I'm sure others are touched by your story, and it's just simply amazing.
Thank you, David. And she said,
thank you very much.
All right, David Taylor. That was David Taylor live on air. Erica, he said one thing. He asked one question. He said to me, and I gather you heard, he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 as it pertains to overcoming what you've been through?
Wow, that's a hard question, but today I can rate myself with 10.
10. I applaud
Yeah.
you. I applaud
you. Know why? Because the last 3rd suicide attempts, I like to call them my personal encounter with God.
With God.
Especially after the last one that I failed again. I looked myself in the mirror. I looked terrible. Terrible. I was so ugly. So I looked myself in the mirror and said, stop. Don't you see that God doesn't want you to go? Don't you realize that He wants you here? 5 attempts and you failed all of them. Don't you see God's hands in all of this? And I told myself, That's it.
Never again. I have this
That's it.
question that is burning. Are you able now to have relationship with men, be it intimate or social, but are you able now to share that space? Are you in a relationship?
Today, yes. I was, I was, but I just broke after a little bit more than 2 years. But
Mm-hmm,
I mean, yes, today I am able.
mm-hmm,
Thanks be to God. Thanks be to the amazing therapists that I had that could help me, because you see, it's a life process. It's a life healing. But I learned that it's one step at a time. First of all, I had to forgive myself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Secondly, and that was the hardest one that I couldn't believe I could do, but I forgave him.
mm-hmm.
And after forgiving him, I took away the power that he had over me.
Over you. Mm-hmm. And you're
You
using
see?
your voice now.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgave him not because he deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace.
Mm,
That was the closure I gave to myself. It doesn't mean I don't struggle, but
right.
I think the heaviest burden that was hatred, lack of forgiveness, guilt, everything was taken away from me from the moment that I forgave myself and I forgave him.
Mm-hmm.
I
Do
don't
you
have
talk to him
contact
now?
with him.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you talk to him now? Do you say hi, hello?
No,
Okay.
no. After that, like there were some, I think I met him last time. My niece is 8. 8 years ago was the last time I met him. That was on my sister's wedding.
Okay.
Because you see, one thing that I learned, I mean, I I have boundaries and that he doesn't have the right to cross,
To
you know, and I have the right to protect
protect.
my
Mm-hmm.
boundaries. I forgave him. I am at peace. If he's not, he's going to deal with that.
Brilliant.
But
Um,
what I was carrying, I'm not carrying anymore. All that dirty is not on my shoulder anymore.
mm-hmm. It
See,
was
so
never on your shoulder, and I'm
we
glad
don't
that you
talk. Yeah,
recognized and reached
yeah.
this place. I'm glad. To wrap up now, what would your final words for persons who are going through similar situation, that girl, that young lady, that 8 year old, that 2 year old, that 16 year old, that 15 year old who is going through this at this moment we're speaking, passing by designed to inspire and decided to stop and listen to this show? What would you say to that little girl who is fearful right now, experiencing this similar situation? What would Erica today say to that little girl?
First thing, it's not your fault. You are not responsible. Secondly, you are not alone. Third, you are much stronger than you think you are. Much
And
stronger.
and with that, we say thank you, Erica. I'm so glad I stopped by. I'm so on LinkedIn. I'm so
Thank
glad.
you
I
very
mean,
much. Yeah.
viewers, she made a post on LinkedIn. I'm just sharing the lighter side because I had goose pimple all over my body throughout until she's
Oh,
began smiling. I met her on LinkedIn. She shared a post, just touching the point to say that, someone didn't understand what she went through, and it person was just being mean, and I saw that. No, I had to inbox her and say, well, then listen, it's not that's not on you, I and that's how we started the conversation. And guess what? The conversation will never end
yeah.
because I have a LinkedIn friend. I will always reach
Yeah.
out. I'm sure you will. And I'm glad that I crossed your path that day. Nothing happens just out of thin air. It was for a reason. And
Absolutely.
I'm happy to meet a beautiful soul like yours. Right. I hope one day
Thank
I'll
you.
get
I'm
to meet
happy as
you.
well.
Thank you, Erica, for sharing your story on this platform. And I want you to continue to share your story in a way to help others because believe me, a lot of persons are going. I know it's not just the young ladies, we're talking about
Hmm.
boys as well. So there are
Yeah.
issues out there. So I want to say
Yeah.
from all of us here at Design to Inspire, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for advocating for the voiceless. Thank you for coming on this platform, but most of all, thank you for healing. Thank you for healing. You would have wasted such a beautiful soul, such a beautiful face, such a beautiful smile. And I'm not just saying this, I'm saying it because it
Thank
is
you.
real, right? And
Thank you. Thank you very much.
we will continue. I know it's probably your late hours now, but this is it. And let's continue the conversation. Take good care of yourself
Sure.
and continue to take
Yeah.
good care of others. We will talk.
Thank you
Uh,
very much. I am very, very much grateful from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for crossing my way and thank you for having me in your show. Thank you. Thanks for
you're most
helping me
welcome.
to heal once more.
It's my absolute pleasure, Erica. Now, listeners, viewers, this is it. Thank you so very much. This show could not have ended in an hour. It could not have ended, and I'm sure we could continue. But thank you for listening. Thank you for chiming in. And this is the first time I've not asked you to call in because I mean, I understand the messages coming in. It's sad. We know it's sad, but it's real. We cannot turn a blind eye. It's sad, but it's real. Thank you for passing through. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for your messages. And when you go to bed tonight, please pray for Erica, but not just for her. Pray for all the young ladies and the young boys who are going through a similar situation. And pray also for their predators so that they can change their heart, their minds. This is it. And this is where I say to you, listeners, viewers, thank you. Continue to be inspired.